This is Bruce Friedman of Adult Site Broker, and welcome to Adult Site Broker Talk, where each week we interview one of the movers and shakers of the adult industry, and we give you a tip on buying and selling websites. This week we'll be speaking with Jeff Wilson of Kams.com. I'm proud to announce that Adult Site Broker Talk has been nominated for the prestigious AVN Awards as Favorite Adult Podcast. My thanks to AVN and those who nominated us, but most of all, you, the listeners. To vote, go to avn.com/awards/voting and choose Favorite Adult Podcast. You can vote daily through January 24th. I'll be in Hollywood for XBIZ LA, January 12th through the 15th. I hope to see many of you there. If you'd like to sit down and discuss business, contact me at adultsitebroker.com. We're proud to announce our latest project, thewaronporn.com. You'll find articles on age verification laws and other attacks on our industry. It's to raise awareness of our industry's plight in the war on porn. You'll find all that and more at thewaronporn.com. Now time for our properties of the week for sale at Adult Site Broker. We have a premium AI companion platform focused on emotional realism and deep memory. Users interact with lifelike companions that remember every detail and respond with real emotion. We have a network of BDSM subreddits. It has over 1.49 million users, over 3.8 million posts, and almost 45,000 comments. There's a porn picture site with both a Web3 and a Web2 domain. The keyword of the domains is one of the most globally recognized and searched terms in the world, porn. We have a buyer who's looking for dating and lifestyle sites in Europe. They would also consider other geos. We're offering a strip chat white label. The average user spends 24 minutes on the site. We have a network of interracial reality hardcore sites. The main site has reality hardcore porn with amateur girls as well as some porn stars. There's a unique platform that bridges the gap between mainstream social link services like Linktree and adult content creators on platforms like OnlyFans. They combine a bio link with the ability to send virtual gifts. We're offering a growing free porn gaming site with adult sex games. The site is owned by one of the top entrepreneurs in our industry. And there's a highly active, organically grown Reddit community centered around the stalking and foot fetish niches. For more information, go to our listings page at adultsitebroker.com. If you have any questions, please contact us on our website. Now time for this week's interview. My guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk is my old friend Jeff Wilson of Kams.com, and that's Kams with a K. Jeff, thanks for being with us on Adult Site Broker Talk.
Thanks for having me, Bruce.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure. It's nice to finally have you on. Jeff is the founder of No Breaks, Inc., an incubator for adult traffic generation products. Jeff started his career in the industry, building and representing affiliate programs. He was hired by VS Media in 2011 to run the Flirt for Free affiliate program. During his tenure at VS Media, he grew traffic and business development with positive year-over-year growth until a company acquisition in 2020. In 2021, he was promoted to vice president. While representing Flirt for Free, Jeff was the recipient of an XBIZ Exec Award for Brand Ambassador of the Year and a YNOT Best Industry Representative nomination, among other honors. In 2023, No Breaks launched with the mission to build web products that generate traffic for advertisers and creators. In 2024, No Breaks tested Kams.com, launching in beta in February of 2025. On Kams.com, cam models post videos to promote themselves. When they go live on a major cam site, their videos are featured prominently, directing interested users to their cam rooms. Jeff, what's your mission at Kams.com? Tell me just a little bit about what you're trying to do there.
Well, the mission really is kind of as you just described, is get traffic to cam models when they're live, when they want the traffic, which comes from my background at Flirt. So at Flirt Free, the number one thing that I heard is, hey, we need more traffic, and on the best days possible, even on the good days though, they're like, we need traffic. They're making the most money they've ever made. They're still, I need more traffic. So it was clear to me that is definitely a pressure point for models. So with that in mind, I was kind of like, okay, well, what can I do to kind of, fix that? We used to buy a lot of traffic. Obviously, I was running the media buying team at one point. I kind of built a lot of their processes along with some really great people that I hired. And when we did that back in like 2016, 17, it started to get really popular to use landing pages. So it's not like we just, buy a pop and send a user directly into a model's room. Instead, what we would do is send them through a funnel where it was like, do you like hot chicks? Yes. Okay. Blondes or brunettes? Okay. Ass or tits? Whatever you like. Okay. And by the end of it, the user feels invested and the media buyer has essentially pre-qualified that user. He's engaged. He wants something. He's already gone through all the steps. So now he's fired up. So then you send him in. And then at that point, when he goes into the room, he's much more likely to engage with the model. Now, some landing pages sucked and some landing pages were great. And, you had to do a lot of, testing to figure out which one's which. You're doing A/B, this page or that page, but you're also adding multiple variations. And you're like, is it the red button or is it the blue button? Is it on a Tuesday or a Wednesday? Is it vertical or horizontal, And so, you kind of basically, have to go through this process of like warming up customers. And so that's kind of where my head was at. Like, can I build this thing that not only generates traffic and gets people to come back, but even if I bought traffic to it, could it essentially warm up a customer so that when they get to a model's room, they're ready to engage with them?
Interesting. And how's it going so far for Kams.com?
Good. It's like, I think way more than I thought that I would build this quickly, but I'm also like a startup. So every day I'm feeling, under the gun. Like I need to, jump 5 more steps in, not a lot of time. So as you kind of mentioned before, we launched our beta back in February. What happened was we launched an alpha, which is we took somebody else's code, somebody else's system, threw some lipstick on it to make it look like TikTok. And then we went down to Colombia and we were like pitching cam models like, hey, would you be interested in this? Do you want traffic? Yada, yada. And when we went through that phase, it was very clear that if we wanted to scale and do all the features that we wanted, we'd have to build our own system. So there's no, using somebody else's product. So that's what we built and launched in February. And when we launched in February, it was like, we went from getting, 3 videos a day to getting like 50 videos a day, 60 videos a day. And so I'm like, okay, models are interested. That was really good, but it was still clear to me that there's more to flesh out, especially considering things like, number one, I wanted a product for gay. I don't like the idea of a gay user coming to the site and having to say like, first see girls and then go to the settings and say, my preference is guys.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, but for the most part, you draw from straight sources. And if you buy from gay sources, then it's even worse. But I think that females tend to be kind of the primary. So for a lot of, and I saw this on the Flirt Free side as well, is a lot of people like new users, they come to the site, they have to click the guys first to get to the place that they want to go, which is not so smooth. So I wanted to build a guys version, which we're like process of activating right now called Webcam Bros. I wanted to build a studio manager so that, it's easy for studios to manage multiple models with one login and do a bulk upload of videos. I want them to be able to plan out their videos where they could just sit for 5 minutes and plan out their whole schedule if they have the content. There was a lot for me to build. We did that and basically launched that version. So kind of calling it out of beta last month when we went down to Colombia and showcased at the community update show. And there's still stuff to do, but now I'd say we're kind of like live and, actually, working.
And I'll give everyone the standard disclaimer. We're doing this on September 5th, September 4th, Jeff's time. So not to confuse you. And it will run in January. Jeff, when did you first come up with the idea to start the company, and talk a little more about the whole journey?
Yeah, it was kind of like an amalgamation of things. First I had that thought always that models need traffic. And if I could service that as a business, obviously in a profitable way, then I know that it would meet a huge demand. There's a lot of models that would answer that. So that's kind of where it started. But a few things were like, I also, the ideal was to get a customer to the point in which he's interested, right? So it's like, not like you're browsing a tube site, you get a pop and you're in a model's room. In that experience, the user is not engaged. 99% of them are just clicking X, Bob's your uncle, have a good day. But if I can get them to the point where I know that they are interested in the model, what I could essentially do is I could light up media buying campaigns with XOClick and Traffic Junkie and whoever else, and I can retarget those users if I can only just tag them. And your retargeting is where you're going to make the most money. Any media buyer knows you're wasting your money on top of funnel campaigns, but you're at least building your audience. And then once you get down to the end, qualifying the users that you want, you're going to make all your money bringing those people back to the site. The ideal is you go to Pornhub, you click on an ad, get to a cam model or whatever it is. You like her, you show some kind of signal that you're interested, then you bounce. But now, next time you go to Pornhub or any related site, all you're going to see are ads of that model. Like, that's the ideal, right? So how do you build that? So if I owned a cam site where the models were located, then I could essentially fire that retargeting tag, but I don't. So I was thinking, well, what I could do is build like an intermediary. So imagine like if I owned Linktree, where model sends their traffic from, let's say, Twitter to Linktree, then the user clicks on one of those links because he says, oh, the link says maybe the model is live right now on Chatterbait. User clicks that link, user goes over to Chatterbait. I also, because I own Linktree, I would fire my retargeting tag and say that this user is now tagged as interested. He did an action that showed a signal that he was interested in that model in going further. So again, I didn't own Linktree. So I was like, that's also an interesting idea, but that's essentially what I did with Kams.com, which is the model's profile is a short URL, kams.com/their name. So Kams.com/Bruce. That's easy to remember, easy to share, put it on a t-shirt, whatever you want.
Hey,
it's a good idea. And if you go to your profile, then you have control over the links. So you could list, 4 or 5 links of whatever cam sites you work on. So that's kind of the idea, which is like, I have this intermediary and anybody who's clicking on those links could theoretically be retargeted. So the first idea was, how do I meet the demand? How do I, get traffic to cam models who wanted and need it? The second thing was being able to retarget and theoretically do more profitable media buying campaigns than other sites. And then the last thing was really like, how do I make a user experience that's really like forward, meaning like mobile first, TikTok style, whatever it is. So I kind of put all that stuff together, and that's why we have Kams.com now.
Yeah, I've taken a look. It looks really nice.
Yeah, on desktop, it's not my favorite. We're going to do a little redesign on desktop.
I could tell it needed the mobile, but I'm an old guy. I look on desktop.
We built it for mobile. So yeah, us nerds who sit by the computer and work all day, yes, we're going to experience like a nice, experience. But the mobile is like, that's exactly TikTok.
That's going to be my next look, is looking at it on mobile. Definitely. Talk about the difference between being an employee for a large company like VS Media and now having your own company.
Sure. So I worked for Flirt for 12 years, and then when I left, I still consulted for them for a year. So my mind was still in there, but like I basically grew up there. Everything that I did, like, as far as like being just like an affiliate manager and growing up to, being an executive there, was all built there. And so you then form these patterns. I'll give you an example. So basically I had a media buy that at the time was a big media buy for me. It was like 10 grand. For me, that was a lot of money. So I went to my boss and I was like, okay, I think we need to do this media buy, but it's going to cost like 10 grand. And he said, well, do you think it's going to work? I was like, yes, it's totally going to work. So we do it. Yep. It's going to make us money. Yep. Okay, let's do it. He said, Jeff, we have gambled 10 grand on way dumber things. I promise you this. Let's just go for it. And so I said, okay, let's do it. And it ended up being a really good campaign and all that stuff. And that led to bigger and bigger and bigger campaigns. But the point is, you grow up in that kind of environment, you're going to develop this like a little bit of a risk appetite, a wide risk appetite.
Kind of being a baller.
Well, I mean, it's not even that. I mean, because like I was, still a pretty cheap person. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'd be like, send me in, coach. This is, I don't need any of that stuff. But the point though is that you're taking these media buys and in a way you start building a portfolio that's so profitable that you're just like, yeah, we can take gambles here and there so long as we can start hitting some good ones. And again, in the big picture, super profitable. Life was good. We were doing really well. Now I'm paying the bill.
Yep. I was waiting. So I was waiting for that.
Well, that's the difference, right? Like I don't have this kind of huge company behind me. I don't have all these resources and people and all that stuff. And so, it's not that I'm risk averse. It's that I need to be 100% sure because you only have so many resources. So the way I described it when I left was like, I'm going through a rewiring my brain process. Not even just about money and stuff like that. It's how do I do my day to day? How do I talk to people? You know what I mean? How do I do lead generation again? You're rethinking everything and you just think about it a little bit differently.
You have to. You absolutely have to. I mean, I went through it from working for a company to having the first of my outside companies. I always did some consulting and always made some money on the side. But I mean, as soon as you have your own business, it's a whole different ballgame. There's no two ways about it.
And as, an executive of a company that's doing well, you have employees. I was very fortunate to hire some really, really awesome people and people who were much smarter than I was.
That's what you should do.
Which is such a great place to be because then you have a task. You're like, okay, I more or less know what the goal is on this task. So, let me meet with somebody on, the steps to get to that goal. And then I just pass the ball to them. See you in 2 months when this is complete. You know what I mean? And you can't do that running your own company. It's just like it all kind of falls on you.
You pass it to yourself. So what's your revenue model there?
So it's still evolving. The main goal in the beginning was to acquire traffic, warm up the user. When the user then goes to the model's profile, they click on the link where it says, I'm live right now on, Strip Chat. Click on the link, they go over to Strip Chat, they spend some money. When they do that, Strip Chat pays me some money.
So it's affiliate.
It was supposed to be an affiliate model in the beginning until I realized that like I'm just too passive with that. Like there's a reason why people do ads. You know what I mean? Like for somebody to get to that point, they have to really kind of get deep. They have to watch a few videos. They got to like a specific model. They have to go to their profile. They have to be interested enough to say, I want to chat live with her right now. That generated some revenue, but it wasn't like revenue where I'm just like, okay, I found lightning in a bottle. So then I started selling some ads, and that definitely helped. But then you have this kind of weird trade-off with like user experience versus ads. You know what I mean? I could load an ad every video swipe, but then who's going to come back to the site, So that part is still evolving. The ads part makes things, profitable, which is, a business. But it's not yet something that I think is like amazing.
If you overdo it, you lose your traffic. No, it's completely understandable.
Yeah. So my plan in the future is kind of two parts, which is one, multiplying what I have. So instead of only having kams.com, I will have Webcam Bros. And then there's a future plan that's, still evolving. So don't kind of, ask me next year, what happened with this? Why didn't you do this? But there's another plan to launch a project called X Shorty, which is kind of the same idea, but for OnlyFans models.
What's it called? Sorry.
X Shorty.
X Shorty. Okay.
Yeah. So the idea is, right now I have a good funnel, right? I have a good way of getting traffic in, warming them up, and then sending them off to an offer. But I really want to perfect this on the webcam side first. And once I do that, then I feel like I'll be kind of ready to kill it on the OnlyFans side. But more and more, I'm feeling like, I kind of have to get into that side of the industry just because I feel like webcam is kind of shrinking a little bit. The worlds are kind of colliding a little bit. Every webcam model also has an OnlyFans, et cetera. So that's the first part, which is multiplying the amount of sites and finding one that's, going to also make sure that it hits in the right audience. So right now I'm with, doing what I am with webcams. X Shorty is going to be slightly different because it has a little bit of a different goal. It's not like, models are live right now. It's more like I have recent content or something like that. And then the third thing is at some point, I probably will have the ability for customers to message models directly for paid, for like paid messages, and also for the models to be able to sell premium videos.
That's excellent. Well, you certainly got a lot on tap. It sounds like you're going to need a big team at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to get there, but right now it's a bunch of hustlers.
You know it. What have you learned so far since starting Kams.com?
What have I learned so far?
No, I asked you.
Yeah, just like everything about when you get into a project, you just start to get perspective that you didn't have. If I started to go and learn guitar, I'd start to realize like, oh, wow, these people going up on stage and doing this at the same time and focusing on all those frets and getting their fingers all messed up. You get that perspective once you do it. So it's kind of that, it's really hard to start something from nothing. I know that it gets much, much easier to make decisions when you're so close to the results. You know what I mean? It's much easier for me to say a trade show sponsorship is a good idea or not. So a lot of kind of cutting to the chase, whereas I feel like before this, I didn't have as much appreciation for, what goes into all those decisions and, how all that works, I mean, obviously I did it a lot of, yes, I Flirt for Free, but it's just different. I can't tell you how many times that, we did something because, well, that's what we did last year. You know what I mean? Like we had that same budget, right? So we just kind of continue doing that same thing, And
what's interesting about that, Jeff? And you came into this industry kind of on the heels of a generation that just spent money for the sake of spending money. Okay. There was a time in this industry where, and I don't know if you ever experienced this, where people would just spend tons of money at shows and not even freaking think about it. And I'm talking about 50,000, 100,000 or more at like a Phoenix Forum or something. And it was just insane. Well, at a certain point, especially after the tube sites took hold, that got scaled back considerably. But there's still a lot of that where it's like, why are we doing this? Well, we did the same thing last year. And I'm actually breaking out of some of that in my company. I'm really scrutinizing how I spend money and the results I'm getting and if I should be doing the same thing that I did last year.
Yeah. I think the whole industry is really kind of like, the last 5 years or so, just kind of going through this refreshing process, which I think is necessary for a healthy industry, go through the disruptions and all that. But, I kind of, in the role that I had was I very much grew up under, a couple of industry vets, Greg Clayman and stuff like that, where it's just like, I hear about all that stuff and I'm like, how did I miss the Playboy Mansion parties? Like,
yeah, me too.
What happened there? But it's like, I get it. Like during that time, it was like a gold rush. You know what I mean? If you get the right affiliate, you could take it to the moon. And so why not give out a Corvette at, the next trade show,
Yeah. Oh, there was that. I never won one, but what are you going to do? How did you get the domain Kams.com? There must be a story behind it. That's not exactly an easy one to acquire.
It's actually not so much of a story. It's a friend of mine who had the domain. He hit me up. He's like, hey, what should I be doing with this? I'm like, yeah, you could probably do a lot with that. And this was actually during that time where I was kind of, I ended my day-to-day role with Flirt for Free and I was consulting and I was like thinking about building my own thing. What am I going to do? Whatever. He comes to me with this domain. I'm like, I know webcams. Like, I kind of feel like I could do something dope with it. So, we went through a few rounds of negotiation, agreed on a price, pretty penny, but I just felt like a good fit for me. You know what I mean? There's not many people that can get as much value out of that domain as me with my experience,
That's very true. Sounds like a match made in heaven for sure. It must have been meant to be. What did you take from your position at Flirt and put into this new project?
On the very surface of it, just definitely the model frustration, what, hearing from that, we had so many successful models and they would go through ups and downs of, today's amazing, today sucks, So, I really kind of got to bathe in that. And so, kind of really knowing the model's perspective, allows me to kind of build this product that meets that problem, that specific problem. But, I really think that from a deeper level, VS is a much bigger company than I had worked in before, which is not it's not Microsoft or whatever, but, it's still generally I would call it a, medium-sized business. So when you're working with that many people, you really have to be considerate of other people's time, because if you're not, it's really easy to waste somebody's time. And I had this, one day, maybe I'll have ChatGPT do this, but I have this comic book in my, like, strip in my head of like a marketer and a developer looking at each other confused. There's a hole that's next to them with a ball hovering over it. And the next slide is the marketer saying to the developer, I just said, put the ball in the hole. Third slide is they're looking at each other, confused still. Fourth slide is, how the hell did you get the ball to hover over that hole like that? Which is like, that was never my intention. But from the developer's perspective, based on what you said, they're going to over engineer something. They're going to build something great because that's what they want to do, right? They want to build something great. And so very often with working with developers, if you don't give them enough information, they'll go off on a tangent. If you give them too much information, they won't know where to start. And so, getting a really good rhythm for like exactly how to spell out a project and then set it off into motion without you corrupting it, it's actually quite difficult. There are people that do it really well. God bless those people. And the problem with me naturally is that I'm a marketer. I'm somebody who's on the business development side. So I'm going to have ideas. I'm going to be plugged into the industry. Those ideas are going to change day to day. I'm going to adapt to the industry based on where I see the demand. And, developers are more of a static thing. They learn different skills. But if, we're all working on the internet, and if I'm trying to solve a specific problem and I get some new information, well, I got to communicate that to them, So oftentimes, it can seem like, okay, I'm throwing chaos out there. But in reality, we're all just trying to kind of work towards the same goal and do it in a way where it matters, like what we're doing actually matters. So I think I learned a lot of that at VS. And coming into this project by myself, I was like, okay, we have to do this in a way where we're somewhere in the middle. We're able to kind of be plugged in, but also not spoil everything by throwing too many things at somebody at once.
True. And yeah, you have to give devs clear direction. I've experienced that over the years. As long as you tell them exactly what it is you want, you're usually going to get what you want if it's the right dev.
Yeah, I think also a little, like, two really important factors are number one, giving them a little bit of control themselves, meaning if there's a small decision that they have to make, making sure that they feel empowered to make those decisions. Because at the end of the day, those decisions might be inconsequential for like what I'm trying to do, in the big picture. So like I don't care if the button's blue or red. I just said build a page. You know what I mean? So you have to make them feel comfortable to be able to make those decisions. But the second thing that's super important is you got to have a very good channel of communication, not where you're constantly changing the project, but if they have a problem or they have feedback or they have an idea, it should be really easy for you guys to just say like, okay, let's hop on a call and hash this out. Or, they can text you or whatever it is and respond quickly and make sure that, that good communication flow. Very often in companies, if you don't have that foundational layer of communication, people will take things the wrong way. You're going to say something via text and they're going to be like, whoa, what do you mean by that? Or they won't say something to you. They'll say something to somebody else. And then that starts a whole, chain reaction. So, you got to have that good communication as well.
Fortunately, I'm the company, but my dev is a very important part of it. Zach Osborne, who does my development work, and he just does a fantastic job. He has to put up with me, first of all, which isn't easy.
Mm-hmm. God bless him.
Thanks, Jeff. How are you acquiring content and using it on Kams.com?
So primarily models directly. I mean, there are studios also that represent those models in some cases, but that's the ideal. Originally, I was getting some people uploading and we had this like shit or get off the pot moment where I'm just like, do I put some budget behind this and go acquire content? But like you start doing that, then that becomes its own kind of business model. And I was like, no, what we really need to do is stick to the mission, which is very specifically models have a lot of downtime. And the downtime is mostly spent on webcam sitting in their room. Because, 80, 90% of the time they're on webcam sitting in their room waiting for customers. So they get bored. They're like sitting on their phone. They take a nap. They take a break. They're not, they're checking their emails. I don't know. But the point is that during that downtime, their initial impulse is like, what am I doing here? What can I do? And so they then, complain to the website operators. They complain to, their studio. They post on social media. They try to do something that's going to generate some kind of activity in their room.
Yeah. Or they just bitch.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. That's the first impulse is to bitch, right? But, then they'll be like, okay, no, I'm going to hustle. I'm actually going to post on Twitter and, post some kind of salacious content that's going to get people to want to come to my room. But it's like, that's not going to get the visibility that you want. You know what I mean? By the time it does get some visibility, you're already offline. So really, models feel that deeply, which is I'm here, my camera's on, I'm ready to work. Give me some traffic so that I can start, doing what I do and turn this into income. And so I really said, like, focus on that problem. When the models are bored in their room and they really want to do something to generate the activity in their room, that's what we're going to do. That was our pitch. Last year, we kind of talked to some people. Then we launched our beta at LOL Expo. And then we just did that showcase at Community Update. So that's it. We just tell models, this is not a paid thing. This is 100% if you just need traffic. We give you free traffic. That's the value proposition. So they then need to post content. And when they post content, ranks on our site, gets the activity that it will based on what the content is. And then we start sending traffic into their room. It's a kind of like makes sense. It like kind of sells itself in a sense, specifically to those models. If you have, models who, are selling premium videos on OnlyFans, they're not going to do the same thing over there. There needs to be kind of like a business model behind it. But that's it. So long as you're saying, hey, when you're online and you're live and you want traffic, we will send traffic into your room. That makes sense for them.
Sure. How do you make sure the content's good? As we all know, the quality of the content means everything in our industry.
Yes, I learned that very quickly. I was so excited last year when we first started getting videos. I was like, wow, I can't believe anybody would want to post videos on my site. Like I didn't have anything yet. You know what I mean? And then quickly I realized a couple things. Number one is the content was whatever. A lot of it was safe for work. Some of it was just grainy and who gives a shit. And further, my smart engine was ranking the videos based on the last date it was posted. So the user experience was boring video, safe for work video, clothed model. Maybe she's not so attractive or whatever it is, but she posted 10 minutes ago. So it's at the top of the site. But, that was my proof of concept. You know what I mean? That was my MVP version. So quickly we realized that okay, if we're going to get good content, we really have to incentivize the models. And one of the things that I know models were addicted to back when I was with Flirt was the boost program. So you can earn boost points and boost your room. Your studio, some of the studios could boost the rooms. Users could earn boost points and then boost their models if they're fans of the models. And the boost really kind of boosts you to the top of the site. It adds some kind of value to your power score. The power score dictates what who shows up first on the site. And of course, if you're first on the site, you're going to get a lot of exposure. And if you're last on the site, you're going to get no exposure. So no customers. So that kind of boost point kind of mentality or that algorithm was kind of like the shape of how we created our first algorithm, which is, still an evolving algorithm. But right now I'm pretty happy with where we're at. So basically, if the model posts safe for work content, then it will get a pretty negative score. However, in age verification states and countries, we only show safe for work content. So they actually will get a lot of exposure in those places. That one we're still kind of working out. We're building an age verification system so that eventually we can show anybody who's not logged in safe for work content. After a few swipes, say okay, you want explicit stuff, you got to, do the registration. And hopefully the age verification is going to be smooth enough. And then once they do that, then, they can see whatever they want. But the point is that we needed to tell models okay, post good content based on engagement, based on, if it's a vertical video versus horizontal, based on if it's safe for work or not safe for work, based on the quality, the length, all this stuff, you'll get a score. And so based on that score, probably the most important factor is the model live right now on one of her sites? So we have a back-end detection system that checks with all the websites. So Flirt, Chatterbait, StripChat, StreamMate, whoever, XLove. And it says, is the model live right now? If she is, then we give her video, her latest video, an extra boost. And so they show up on the site in different ways. So again, if customers are interested in them, it's very easy for them to get into the model's room and start talking to them. So back to your question, how do you make sure we get good content? We don't. We just incentivize good content. So if you post content that's low engagement, you're not going to get a lot of views. You post content that gets high engagement, you're going to get a ton of views.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of a little bit like the OnlyFans model in that if they post good content, they're going to make money. And if they don't post good content, they're not going to make money. And I think a high percentage of the creators now get that. I would say most of them.
Yeah, eventually you got to learn well, how do I do this really well?
Mm-hmm. Only if they want to make money and not be one of those people that makes $20 a week, if that.
I mean, it's sad to say, but some models actually do that where it's kind of like a machine where, you have a studio that has, 10 models and, he has a requirement for them to give them content and then they post this content. But like I said, like a machine, same tags, same format, all that stuff. And, those are not usually the best videos. I mean, they're going to get views. So it's worth eking out that $20 at a time or whatever. But the best models, I think, are the ones that they give a shit about the actual videos that they're posting. And they're posting more, like I said, engaging stuff.
Sure. So how are you generating traffic for your new site?
That's also a work in progress. Starting off was mainly kind of tube sites. You take a lot of those videos, you kind of post them on aggregators, you get kind of attention over there. Users click over, they come to the site. That's how you can get a lot of high volume traffic. But really, if you're going to get high quality traffic, you have to focus on different sources. So first of all, doing, legit media buying is a way to do it. But I wasn't quite ready to do that until we launched this latest version. So, we've been doing some SEO stuff, building up that base. That's important, but that's also changing, which is, again, something that I have to work on. I can't delegate that to somebody, but that's the most part right now. For the most part, we're, kind of traffic from tubes, building organic, and we're building a system to be able to do that retargeting that I told you about before.
Okay. What are some tips and tricks for a creator to get their videos to rank?
There is a super boost option that we give to certain videos, but automatically, we don't actually kind of press a button to boost them. We have a rating system where two types of people can rate a video. Number one, an admin, which I have somebody that does either that person or I do video ratings, meaning every time a video is posted, I go to it and there's a scale of it's called something else, but essentially a scale of 1 to 5. If it's a 5, it gets a certain boost. If it's a 1, it gets a negative. So the rating is one part of it. Okay. They can't necessarily tell me, or I can't tell them what is a good or a bad video. All we can do is basically say okay, is it safe for work? Is it grainy? Is it vertical? Is it, good duration, whatever it is. So try to post a video that they think is going to be engaging for sure. So the super boost that I was describing before was if it's basically rated a 5 in our system, it's called a great fucking video. If it's a GFV, and it meets a certain duration and it's been posted within the last 24 hours, it's going to get a super boost. Post really good content right before you go online. And when you go online, we will also detect that you're online. We'll give it an extra boost. If you can hit all the criteria and get the super boost, your video is going to be at the top of the site.
That's awesome. How are models liking it so far? Can you share maybe some success stories?
I think models like it. Based on the ones that I talked to, maybe they're just, blowing smoke. But so because I come from a media buying kind of background, all I'm thinking about is how do I cut down the amount of steps it takes for the model to go from interested to my videos live. And so I try to make the process super easy. For studios, we just created this system. So like I said, the studio can literally sit down for 5 minutes. If they have a folder on their computer that has 20 videos in it of a specific model, or they could do it for multiple models. They could literally log in, drag, drop those videos, select the model, and then say, publish this one today, publish this one tomorrow, et cetera, et cetera. So they could do that for the next 3 weeks. They could do that in 5 minutes. So I try to make it as easy as possible. So I think that they like that part of it. all the models are, they all agree that this is a great idea because they all want the traffic. Of course, the real great idea is making sure that all of it jives together. But so models really like the idea, but it's still a new idea. So I think, give it a few years and I think that, models will really like it. But right now, so far, I think that it's really become more of like a standard for some very specific models. So that means like guaranteed when they log on, every single time, they're going to post a video on kams.com first, just because why not? It's going to boost their room a little bit. So some better than others. But the point is that like if it's going to give their room a boost, they do it. So as long as it becomes part of their habit, that's my goal.
Sure. I've often said in the adult industry, because I've seen people come to shows with these great ideas that really didn't cost any money, that would make people money, and they would walk out with their tails between their legs without any business. I've always said that you couldn't at times give away free money in the adult industry. You're giving away free money. Got to get a little frustrating when everyone doesn't take it.
I mean, I don't have that problem. I mean, whenever we showcase at trade shows, which we've done, 2 now, I want to say 99% of the models that come up to the booth and say, "What is this?" end up signing up. Like in the last one, there was, I swear I remember one model specifically that came up and said, "Oh, that's interesting." And I was like, "Did you want to kind of sign up?" "No, I'm okay." Okay. But like for the majority of it, like everybody's interested in it. So really the trick is on my side. If I can do proper traffic acquisition, I can do it in a way where, the whole thing is profitable, then great. That's really just the start. Once I get, people's attention and make sure like, I've acquired essentially their eyeballs and their videos, at that point I can expand the business model. But I think staying mission focused right now, which is coordinating very specifically with the models, making sure that, we're detecting when they're live, they're posting good content, they're getting good feedback, etc. That's kind of the most important thing. So I agree with the premise though. You need to make sure that the whole thing works. You can't just like put $1 in the machine and then have 75 cents, pop out the other side. And then that's the end of it. No, it's a bad formula, but I think that's where you start.
I agree. What are the best models doing to be the best on kams.com?
I think they're learning from their own videos because it's very easy to post a video that doesn't get a lot of visibility and then dissect it and say, well, what was the reason? Most of the videos that end up popping on the site kind of meet the same format. They're explicit, model's hot, the quality of the video is great. Sometimes the ones that really pop off have something unique about them. There's a specific model that I have in mind. She has this kind of really cute, 20-year-old Miami vibe about her. And like, I feel like everything she posts gets really good engagement, like twice as much engagement that you would expect from anybody else. But, she didn't start that way, but like, she kind of leaned into that. And now I feel like she's one of the better ones. But, the point there is that you got to have something, you got to learn and make something special about your content.
Mm-hmm. What are your biggest challenges with your new business?
The biggest challenges, I mean, just number of hours in the day. You know what I mean? Like not number of people. I don't have a staff of 40 people that I can delegate things to. I think also like, again, like I said, kind of being behind the 8 ball, every day where you're just like, I got to make this thing work. I got to change this. I got to change that. I got to shift. Are you familiar with that book from 0 to 1?
Yeah.
Peter Thiel.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's kind of like that. I'm in this 0 to 1 phase. And like during that phase, you just wear multiple hats. You hire somebody, you fire people, you spend budget, you rethink your business model, et cetera, et cetera. So, kind of going through that chaos and then trying to tame it into this business model that works and is scalable so you can scale it from 1 to infinity. That's really the tough part right now. But like I said, I mean, doing as much as we did in the last year is great. I shouldn't be as far along as I am, but yeah.
Been hearing about it for a while, so I'm very impressed with how it's going. What have been your biggest mistakes so far, and what have you done right with kams.com?
I don't know if I would call it a mistake, but like part of me thinks like what I could have done was spend a lot of money in the beginning and then go faster, or raise some money or something like that, where then you hire a lot of people and you go fast and all that stuff. I chose to do it the kind of other way, trying to do it a little bit more sustainably, which is, start with a really basic alpha, like an MVP to really see if, people even care, and learn what you don't know. Because, you start off and you're just like, I don't know what I don't know. And so, you start building something, and I did it that way. But like, I often think about like, well, I would have known this if I would have built something bigger faster. But I think like, it would have just been irresponsible. Like I told you before, I'm kind of cheap. So, I want to make sure that I'm building something and I'm building it in a sustainable way.
I think it's prudent when you first start a business.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be prudent. Or I was in the beginning.
Yeah.
But that also has the trade-off. So, you're gonna go a bit slower, and you're also gonna like I'll tell you something stupid where we had we use a system called ClickUp for our task management. And for whatever reason, I was using the free version. I was like, I'm a startup. I use free version, And so for whatever reason, at some point it was like, okay, but you can't post pictures anymore. So you can make a task, but you can't post a picture. And in order to do that, you gotta upgrade to the premium version, which is like, so it's like $7 a seat. And for me, like the actual people that are using ClickUp was like 4 or 5 of us. So it's going to cost me like, $28, $35 a month. And I was like, but why? It was working before. And like my main operations guy, he's like, dude, we need to post pictures because we need to be able to reference this stuff when we're telling the developers how to do stuff. I'm like, yeah, no, I get it. But like, it's just because of the pictures. Why don't they work anymore? You know what I mean? We could just send pictures via WhatsApp, He's like, no, just pay it. You cheap bastard. Just pay it and let's do it. And you know what? Actually, what happened was I kept delaying that conversation for like 2 months, and eventually pictures started working again. So I don't know what happened, but we're still on the free version, and my operation guy wants to kill me.
Yeah, the gods were smiling down. Who's helping you with this project?
So it's been like kind of a ragtag group of great people trying to assist me. That's basically it. So when I started, it was just me. And then I hired a couple developers out of a country that I won't name because I love people from that country and I'm not trying to, cash shade. But those 2 developers were the type of people that will say, yes, I'm totally going to do this. No problem. And then a week later, it turns out like you didn't understand anything I said. I wish you would have said, I don't understand, So we did that for a few months, and it was just like, I quickly realized that like I can do this myself, but wearing all the hats myself and keeping all of that organized and accountable and on task is going to be tough. And so I had a friend of mine who actually used to work at Flirt Free with me. He was the head of business intelligence. He actually started as, from the media buying team. I needed somebody to do more like data analysis. So I hired him to be more of like a user acquisition person. This is my user acquisition guy. And after like 6 months, like he was doing so much good stuff. I was like, in the beginning, I swear in his interview, he's like, all I want to do is work. I don't want to manage people. I just want to do projects. I was like, great. And after 6 months, I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. I need you to manage some people. Like you're doing so many good. And we ended up building a really awesome team, like really awesome people. So that guy his name's Caesar. He's awesome. And, after a few months into the project, I was like, dude, I need you. And he's like, all right, fine. I got you. He's been my number one supporter and really helping me with everything. I call him my operations person, but he's also my therapist. He's also, if I need a design, maybe he'll rethink something. He kind of a jack of all trades, but he's also like kind of a master in a lot of ways. So Caesar's been my number one ally. And then as I need people, so after we kind of got rid of those other developers, went through a few rounds, I got introduced to a referral. A friend said, hey, I have this developer that I work with. What if you can work with him? I met him. We hit it off. I tried him on some projects. He's awesome. He's thoughtful. Building something that is complicated and scalable is difficult. And if you get an amateur developer to try to do something like that, they're going to make a lot of things that are not so scalable, or at least things that are vulnerable. Yeah, I'm sure you get it. So it was that main developer. He then referred another developer who works with us. So those guys are awesome. And then I have a few contract people here and there. And then when I do trade shows, sometimes I also need some backup when I need, extra biz development help. A few times I had Gunnar, formerly from Kams.com, Gunnar. He's, again, such a supporter. Like,
he's an amazing guy.
He really is. Really, really. He not only is a sweet guy, but he's also like emotionally mature. I feel like, he understands how to communicate, how to get, if he has to sell something or if he has to kind of just be rational about something, So I really like that. And then last one is more recently is I needed some help at Community Update down in Columbia. And so Miguel, who used to be at Flirt Free as well, also helped me with that. These are all people where it's just like they're kind of in my close circle, and the business kind of like, takes off. Then I would like to, engage with them more, consistently. But, at the moment, it's really just people who have been, in my close circle that I trust and can do all the things that I know we need to do. That's been mostly the people I work with.
That's awesome. I was just telling somebody about Gunnar yesterday. That's funny. I was just thinking about him. I was going to reach out and say hi. Hey, Jeff, I'd like to thank you for being with us on Adult Side Broker Talk, and I hope we'll get a chance to do this again soon.
Thanks, Bruce. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you.
My broker tip today is part 4 of what to do to make your site more valuable for when you decide to sell it later. Last week, we talked about keeping your site up to date and making sure everything works. Next, find new ways to monetize your website, such as sell advertising. If you've got a free site like a tube, that's the best way to monetize your site. If you have a tube, another way to make more money is to sell premium memberships. Offer free users one level of content, and for premium users, you can do things like give them higher quality or longer videos or both. You can also make the site ad-free for premium members. Start an affiliate program. If you have a pay site, this is a great way to increase your quality of traffic and get more joins. With all sites, you can figure out other upgrades and products you can sell to your users. Pay sites can also sell pay-per-view, where people have the option of paying by the scene for content they can't get on the site. This is also another way to charge users as opposed to a monthly fee. Sell them other products like toys and novelties. Market your business. Do things to improve your search engine results. There are some great SEO consultants out there who can help you get higher search rankings in Google. If you want some recommendations, contact us on our site. List all the benefits of your site and your marketing and how they affect the user. And of course, hire a great marketing consulting firm such as Adult B2B Marketing, which we also happen to own. We'll talk about this subject more next week. And next week, we'll be speaking with Leah Diggle and Wendy Haggerty of Mind Mood. And that's it for this week's Adult Side Broker Talk. I'd once again like to thank my guest, Jeff Wilson of Kams.com. Talk to you again next week on Adult Side Broker Talk. I'm Bruce Friedman. Happy New Year, everyone.